Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today we'll be going through the progress of my indie game Duck Norris and how much work can someone with little bit coding experience do in just 2 months. If you're new here, hi, my name is Moss and we're creating a game where a duck and a platypus are saving the world from an alien invasion. I initially started this journey in Unity, but because of recent events, I switched to GameMaker. In the past 2 months, I had to rebuild everything from the ground up with no prior experience with the engine. And with Hyperlight Drifter and Risk of Rain being my favorite games, it made sense to me to give GameMaker a try. I decided to make this video to talk about the game and how it's going. I haven't done any of those in a while and I think it's good to show you what's happening behind the scenes. The general idea is that you play as a duck and you discover that there is an alien invasion, and your first instinct is to have one final ice cream before it all goes down. That being said, I wanted to spend the first chunk of the game learning GameMaker and GML, and working out the systems for the game. So I created a basic scene and basic movement code to move the player around. Later on, I decided to rewrite it as a state machine to make things easier, especially if there is unlockable moves like dashing and wall climbing. Now that I have the basics, I wanted to take a look back at the games that brought me a lot of joy. I have always been fascinated by games that have a little bit of backtracking, and I noticed most of these genres predominantly use melee combat. Even though melee is so much fun, I wanted to add a twist to make it feel a little bit more arcadey. So I decided to add guns. Lots of guns. And I needed them to look very snappy. So adding visual feedback is very important for the player. And I want them to feel like they're holding something they can depend on and they could save them in this world. So I loaded up some of my favorite video games and took some notes. I played Enter the Gungeon, Risk of Rain, Hyperlight Drifter, and the most important one is Abuse. It's a game from the 90s and it was way ahead of its time. I remember playing it when I was young and it kept me at the edge of my seat. That game was really intense. So I figured this could be a good starting point to inherit from, because I wanted the game to have a feeling of horror, but not necessarily scary, if that makes any sense. One of the decisions I had to make is how I would approach the ammo system. Do you find ammo by defeating enemies or have a system similar to Enter the Gungeon? So I decided to go with the liberal approach by giving the player full control and explore different builds. So for each weapon, I added an overheat, and when it reached a critical zone, you can't shoot for a short duration of time. And I think this is very similar to reloading, but with unlimited ammo, except it's auto reload. This means I needed to create more weapons. To start, I created a few placeholders with different fields. I also made the system very modular, where I can switch and adjust as I go, to make sure I can balance the weapons in the future. And if you have any gun ideas, please let me know in the comments below. One of the things that I wanted to touch on is how exploring feels in the game. And I wanted to highlight that by taking a look at how Hollow Knight did it. When they added this destructible terrain, it made the nail feel a connection to the world. You were not just moving from point A to point B, you were constantly interacting and touching like a toddler. And that was the first thing that got me hooked when I played the game. So I created a similar system to explore that as we go. Now that we have weapons, we gotta create something to aim at. And I wish I could say that programming enemy AI was straightforward. It's just sometimes the code decides to let you know that it is in charge and decides to do really weird stuff. Alas, after days of trial and error, we have a functioning AI with some modularity that can be updated as we go. And now here's my favorite part. Creating bosses, and I can't tell you how excited I was to give it a go. The only thing that took some time was the preparation and taking a lot of notes from my favorite games. And I took a lot of notes. I wanted to make every boss very modular, meaning I can plug and play as I build the systems to make the best combos. For example, this boss can teleport, summon lightning, and what if I wanted to add a dash? Maybe add some spikes, and spawn enemies. So to tie all that together, you just create a switch system with a tiny logic, and there you have it, a functioning boss fight. And if you wanted to spice it up, you can segregate different moves with different phases to give the player a cue that the fight is getting harder. The best part is, every move has its own script, so I can use and alter for future bosses. So my main goal at the moment is to finish as many systems as possible, learn as much as I can while doing that, so when it comes to adding some narrative, I shouldn't have too much friction. World building is another elephant in the room, and it requires a lot of trial and error and a lot of research and implementation. But one thing I know for sure is I want the player to feel stripped away from humanity as the game goes forward. The corruption takes place, and I want it to feel like you're really deep into the core, and it's too late for you to turn back. After all, you started by just chasing a simple ice cream. So that being said, I created different areas, and every time the player strays away from the starting point, the world gets a little bit more dangerous. So I started adding some backgrounds, parallax to make the world feel alive. But I still haven't finished all of the assets yet. One of my initial goals is to finish the tutorial section with the art and start working on the puzzles. So far, the system I have could create simple gem-sized games with a beginning, middle, and ending, but nothing that makes it stand apart. And this is where things get juicy. So I decided to create super weapons. We'll talk more in detail about that in future episodes. And I think this is enough for this devlog. I'm still working on a lot of exciting stuff, and I want to introduce different challenges for different players. And I honestly cannot wait to show you more of it. Thank you so much for watching. If you made it this far and you're interested in optimizing things and becoming better, I've created a new Discord server for like-minded people who want to take this journey to the next level. You can find it in the description below. If you like this video, please leave it a like and a comment. It really helped me with the algorithm and help this channel grow. And if you enjoyed this video, you might enjoy this video as well. Again, thank you so much, and remember, just take it one day at a time, and I'll see you in the next video.